Peggy 18.
Yes, Stardew Valley, the game so many of us love to play in our more and more limited spare time. Game where we farm, mine, fight, fish, and participate in many more activities. However, in order to be able to do all these activities, we need energy, and who wants to eat a simple salmon berry or spring onion? No, same as our love for this game, there is that saying that love goes through the stomach, and so on this special feature, which took me forever to put together, we are going to be looking at some of the many dishes available in this game, and we are going to be comparing only the Queen of Sauce recipes and the recipes you can get from the NPCs, which means that dishes acquired from farming, foraging, and other skills will be excluded. And in order to be able to cover the recipes from Queen of Sauce, I will keep in the recipes you can obtain or acquire from Gus or Willy in order to keep it somewhat fair. Also, I need to mention before we start that I am working with the vanilla 1.5 point something patch version of the game currently available on Steam. So please keep that in mind, and since this is my 5th rewrite of the script, as there is a lot of data to go through, and thanks to certain someone, when I was almost done the last time, 1.5 patch has been released and changed a couple of things around, so thank you, Eric. Therefore, in order to make this a proper comparison, like back when I did the Keg vs Preserve Jar, which was a preparation for this project, honestly, we are going to be taking a detailed look at the recipes in order to get better understanding of them, and I will try to throw in a couple of useful tips and other information to keep it a more fun version in comparison to a monotone monologue speech about just pure data. Before we start the show, a quick word from our sponsor, the Noob Corp. Do you love your four-legged friends, like dear Teddy? Well, he certainly does love you, and the best way possible to return his affection and love is to take care of him. That is why here at Noob Corp, we believe that love goes through the stomach, and we have created a brand new line of pet canned food to make sure your pups and kittens are nice, happy, and healthy. Our panel of specialists have mixed in all the favorites of your four-legged friends to ensure that each time the bowl is licked clean. On top of that, since you are going to be stopping at your local store, why not grab a can of our brand new Noob Corp lunch meats in can as well? Our panel of specialists who have taken the unwanted parts for your pets first took the good bits and pieces and mixed them up together in a variety of flavors that you and your family will love at your next supper. So since we can make your pets fall in love with our food, we sure can make you as well. So head on to your local store, cause we got only limited stock. After all, my neighbor's dog who kept barking up all night has gone missing all of a sudden, and we need these cans to be flying off the shelves. Also, due to a small glitch in a printing process, some of our lunch meat cans and pet food cans got the same label, so your next supper might be a big surprise for your loved ones or relatives if you don't want them to show up for your lunch or dinner anymore. Noob Corp. The secret to good canned meat is eating it with your eyes closed. Okay, now that the bills have been paid, let's take a closer look at the first way we can obtain these recipes. The Queen of Sauce. Okay, so we're going to start off with the more convenient way to obtain dishes, as all that is necessary in order for us as players to get these is to keep playing the game and keep progressing through these days, and on each Sunday the Queen of Sauce is going to give us a nice recipe which is usually completely out of the season. However, Queen of Sauce runs for 2 whole years, giving us 8 seasons in total, each with 4 dishes sprinkled across them, giving us together 32 recipes, which can be obtained while building up our farming empire. Also, I'm going to leave you a link in the video description for the list of all her dishes to the wiki page, in case you want to study these further later on or while watching the video, because the chances are if there's gonna be another major update to the game, these numbers might no longer apply. So in the meantime, let's take a look at the recipes which we can obtain from the TV show. Stir fry. Okay, so the first dish we ever learned from Queen of Sauce is the stir fry. The dish consists of 4 ingredients: 1 cave carrot, 1 common mushroom, 1 kale, and 1 oil. In return, we get 200 points of energy and 90 points of health. We can also use this dish as a gift. Leah specifically loves this dish, while everyone else except of Krobus, Leo, and Willy like it. So if you are going to need to befriend that someone special, this is a nice option for you as a gift. However, the biggest issue players might face with the recipe is the common mushroom as an ingredient, which you require for the preparation, as unless you can earn up to 25,000 gold, Demetrius will not show up offering you to install the mushroom growers in the cave. This means that the only other option is to hope that the traveling merchant will have these ingredients, but unfortunately she tends to sell them for a premium markup, so I definitely do not suggest this, especially at the start of your playthrough, as you will need to keep that money for upgrading your backpack and other more pressing issues, which would leave you to wait until the fall season, so you will have to preserve some kale in order to eventually prepare some stir fry when you can come across the common mushroom as a forageable outside around the valley. Next thing is the cave carrot. This is also an issue, as cave carrots are usually found in mines between the level 10 and 20, if you hold the soil, for example. And since the mines are opened on the 5th of spring, this is not going to give you too many opportunities to dig really deep into the mines, especially at the start of the game when you don't have the best pickaxe proficiency and you need to water your crops and you don't have theoretically too many forageables to sustain your energy level. Therefore, as a starting dish, this might be an issue to put together. However, it is a nice thing to start off the list. So that is all I can say at this point about stir fry. If you have something to add, feel free to do so, and let's move on to the next dish. Number 2, coleslaw. You require red cabbage, vinegar, and mayonnaise, and in return you get 213 points of energy and 95 points of health. The recipe has, however, much worse response from the NPCs in comparison to stir fry, as Gus hates the dish, Willy, Leo, and Krobus dislike it, and the rest of the NPCs are perfectly fine with the dish. However, if you are a returning player or a newcomer, you will soon realize that this dish is A, out of season, and B, acquiring your red cabbage in your first year is going to be a hassle, as Pierre will only carry this from 2nd year, which only lets you acquire the seeds from the traveling merchant. On top of that, cabbage will only grow during summer season, so most likely you will not be able to cook this dish during the spring season, as you would need to be extra lucky by also getting the mayonnaise and as for that you require coop and chickens. Now, if this dish would be moved to another date, it would certainly make a bit more sense, as majority of the player base, this is why I'm trying to address the returning players and also the newcomers, are gonna try to donate their initial red cabbage to Emily's Dye bundle in the community center. Because right now, finishing off the community center provides you with many more rewards. Number 3, radish salad. For this tasty salad preparation, we need 1 oil, 1 vinegar, and 1 radish. And in return, we get 200 points of energy and 90 points of health. And once again, except of Krobus, Leo, and Willy, everyone will like this dish as a gift. The issue which, of course, you will be facing off with this dish is that radish is a summer season crop, therefore you will not be able to cook it immediately, but at least you know to start stocking up your pantry with oil and vinegar. Also, since you are getting this on the 21st of spring, I would probably prefer getting this 1 week later, so that at least you know that you have to prepare for something the next day in summer, which is probably my biggest issue with the dish itself. And trust me, a lot of first year dishes are going to be affected by being out of season. Number 4, omelet. So for omelet, you will require 1 egg and 1 milk. And for your efforts of raising animals on your farm, you are going to get 100 points of energy and 45 points of health, which so far is the weakest of all the dishes you received from Queen of Sauce. Sebastian will hate you if you give this to him. Krobus, Leo, and Willy dislike the dish, and the rest of the NPCs are perfectly fine with it. Here I need to mention that this is the first of 7 dishes which are normally acquired from the TV show, but can be purchased at Gus's Saloon for 100 gold. Now, believe it or not, but getting your barn and coop constructing during spring is not that difficult. That is, if you are working with some less difficult farm layout where you will be able to clear out the necessary space for them, as my suggestion would be the 4 corners map for this purpose. Other than that, this is the first dish which I feel is brought by the TV show, which can be executed upon you obtaining the knowledge of the recipe. Number 5, baked fish. Okay, so the first dish of the summer season is baked fish. You require 1 sunfish, 1 bram, and 1 wheat flour. For your efforts, you get 75 points of energy and 33 points of health. Now, as this is a fish-related meal, Willy is the only change, as only Krobus and Leo will dislike it, and the rest of the NPCs will like this dish. Now, here the effects of the dish are really weak, unfortunately, which is a shame. However, all of the ingredients can be acquired, and because majority of the player base is also eager to fulfill the bundles for Junimos instead of going with the Joja route, you will need to catch both sunfish, which is spring and summer season fish, and bram, which can be caught during all the seasons in the evening, as these need to be donated for the community center bundles. Now, wheat, which is used for the flour, can be milled in the mill, and sure, getting cloth might be issue. However, you can actually turn soggy newspaper into cloth by using the recycling machine. Now that the percentage is low for this to happen, but you only need 4 to build the mill. And if you don't want to have mill on your farm, you can of course purchase wheat at Pierre for 100 gold. Therefore, as a dish, this is actually a nice addition, as initially players will rely on fishing a lot in order to help them with their financial situation. Number 6, flapjacks or pancakes. Well, it took us 6 dishes and getting to the middle of summer season for us to get a first dish from Queen of Sauce, which actually gives us a buff. So for consuming pancakes, you get 90 points of energy and 40 points of health. On top of that, you get +2 to your foraging skill. Unfortunately, summer does not have a berry season for you to put this to the test. And also the extra shells and forage which gets washed out on the beach during the summer season, that starts on the 11th of summer, so you cannot really use the pancakes to help you increase the quality of these items, unfortunately. We are also gonna see a big change in who loves and hates the dish. Jody loves pancakes, Leah hates them. Harvey is added to our 3 musketeers along with Krobus, Leo, and Willie as a person who disliked the recipe, and the rest of the NPCs will actually like it. And in order for you to cook pancakes, you will require 1 flour and 1 egg. In addition, pancakes can be also purchased from Pierre at the Stardrop Saloon for 100 gold. Number 7. Maki rolls. Okay, so we get a bit craftier and start to make one of the dishes inspired by Japanese cuisine. We get 100 points of energy and 45 points of health for consuming this tasty vessel for any fish along with seaweed and rice. The dish is hated by Emily and Evelyn. Krobus and Leo dislike it. Willie has neutral feelings about it. I guess it's more like arts and crafts and less of a food for him. And the rest of the NPCs like this dish. Now, I personally like to use this dish, especially if you have access to lots of seaweed. I'm currently doing a playthrough on the new 1.5 beach farm and it gets washed out on shore, but I also catch it in the water quite a lot, so you should be able to make this dish. I personally advise anyone, if you have bunch of smallmouth bass or any other less valuable fish, to use it for this recipe, as it will help you replenish your energy. Just make sure when you approach the stove you don't have some valuable fish in your backpack or some fish you need for a quest or community center bundle, or you will accidentally turn octopus or something else into Maki roll. And who has 2 thumbs and has done this couple of times? This guy. So yeah, the ingredients are easy to access, so you should not struggle at all with this dish. Also, you can purchase Maki roll from Gus at Stardrop Saloon for 300 gold per portion. Number 8. Bread. Okay, so bread, but by the looks of it, I see baguette. Come on, who is with me on this? Anyhow, for this dish we only get 50 points of energy and 22 points of health, and we only require 1 flour for preparation, and also you can buy this from Gus at his saloon for 120 gold. Leah hates this dish surprisingly. I think she might be suffering with the celiac disease or something, or maybe she just hates gluten and she prefers the gluten-free pie.
Gluten-free and vegan. Are you fucking kidding me? Okay, here we go. Don't need these.
Harvey will dislike this dish, and the rest of the NPCs like, I think it's first time Krobus and Leo like something from the TV. So yeah, there are some weird changes to this recipe overall, and now I never purchase bread from Gus or use flour to make bread. The value is simply not there, and on top of it, if you go through people's trash, it's most likely you will find bread in a trash can of Gus's Stardrop Saloon. So I do not see that many benefits in this, but we will return to bread later on with other dishes as a key component of them. Number 9. Tortilla. Okay, so our first fall season recipe is the corn tortilla. In order to make one, you require 1 corn, and since you can start your corn production at your farm during the summer season, it's most likely you will have a bunch of it stored already, so making this tasty dish is not an issue, and also you can purchase it from Gus for 100 gold. When it comes to gifts, shockingly enough, Kent and Pierre hate tortillas. Leah gets added to our 3 musketeers who dislike just about any dish, and this makes me think that maybe it's not the celiac disease because corn doesn't have gluten in it. It has starch, so I'm not really sure what's the issue here. Anyhow, if you have the abundance of corn, you can be making tortillas without any issue whatsoever. I usually keep them around as eventually they are used for fish tacos. However, eventually I tend to switch from tortillas to other recipes. Number 10, trout soup. Second recipe of the fall season, and yet the fish required for this recipe can be only caught during the summer season. Now, new players who were not able to save up a couple of these fish from summer will not be able to make the dish, for which you require 1 rainbow trout and 1 green algae, as my advice is to make lots of chests at your farm and hoard everything. This is the second dish with a buff from the Queen of Sauce, and this one increases our fishing by 1 point, and it lasts for surprisingly decent amount of time. On top of that, we receive 100 points of energy and 45 points of health. Now, when it comes to giving gifts, Evelyn hates this, and since again it's related to fish, Willie will like this, leaving only Leo and Krobus as people who dislike this recipe as a gift. Now, this is also a first dish which you can actually purchase, but shockingly not from Gus, but from Willie at his bait and tackle shop. And I have to suggest the use of this tasty dish, as usually the 3rd day of spring is a rainy day, and this means that you will be able to try and catch those more difficult fish like catfish. And because you only receive the bamboo fishing pole from Willie on the 2nd of spring, your fishing skill is not too high. So taking this dish from Willie might actually help you in your early game, and you might be able to catch the catfish. Now, the use of this dish has actually been suggested to me by one of my early subscribers way back during my 1.3 patch playthrough of Stardew Valley on my channel. Honestly, it has helped me a lot since then, as even if you fail catching the catfish, just that 1+ fishing will help you reel in more fish, and therefore you have bigger chance for making more money, as they might have better quality as well, thanks to the added skill point. By the time you obtain this dish, you might have already purchased it a couple of times from Willie. I know that on many occasions I use this dish to help me try to catch catfish, especially if you know how difficult it is to reel one in with bamboo fishing pole. So this is actually a really nice starting dish for your fishing, and sure, there are other dishes which help us increase fishing skill, but this is the first one you can get early access to for 250 gold, or until you reach the fall season. Number 11, Glazed Yams. Now, we are getting the second recipe from the TV, where there are actually villagers who love this dish. Both Lewis and Pam love this dish as a gift, and Harvey actually joins our dislikers, while the rest of the NPCs like the dish. All you need to prepare this dish is 1 sugar and 1 yam, and for your efforts in the kitchen you get 200 points of energy and 90 points of health. I personally strongly suggest the use of this dish, especially when you start to venture into the Skull Caverns, as the plus 90 points of health serve as a great health potion, especially against those pesky serpents. Now, since you obtained this recipe on the 21st of fall, you should have a bunch of yams done by this time, as they take 10 days to reach full maturity. Personally, I cannot recommend this dish enough, as since the Skull Cavern has received its rework, the critters living there are much deadlier, and this can save you on many occasions. Number 12. Artichoke Dip. Another great fall season dish. However, the biggest issue is that the ingredients are difficult to come by. And no, I don't mean the milk, but the artichoke itself, as Pierre carries the seeds for this fall season crop only from the second year. So unless you get it from the traveling merchant or by planting mixed seeds and you get lucky enough for an artichoke to sprout, you will have to wait for either the traveling merchant or Pierre to carry a stock of this particular seed. For your efforts in the kitchen, you get 100 points of energy and 45 points of health. When it comes to giving this dish as a gift, Clint loves this dish, and the rest of the NPCs behave the same, meaning we have our 3 musketeers who dislike everything, and the rest of the NPCs will enjoy this as a gift. Number 13, Plum Pudding. The first dish of the winter season, and yet again you require ingredients from the previous season of fall. This means that you will require 2 wild plums, 1 flour, 1 sugar in order to prep this dish. You will be getting 175 points of energy and 78 points of health. What you need to keep in mind is that usually you can get only wild plums outside during the season of fall. Special notice should be paid also to the fruit bats in case you would decide to not have the mushroom cave at your farm. However, it has been proven multiple times that the mushroom cave is the superior option. Also, there is one more thing which you should realize. With the 1.5 patch being released, there are special remixed bundles for the community center. Specifically Linus's Foragers bundle. This bundle will require either 50 salmonberry, 50 blackberry, or 20 wild plums. So theoretically, if you do not acquire enough salmonberries or blackberries, you might be trying to acquire sufficient quantity of wild plums, so you should be able to prepare this dish. When it comes to giving this dish as a gift, Jasmine loves it, Willie, Krobus, and Leo dislike it, and the rest of the NPCs like it. Number 14.
I love chocolate cake.
For this tasty dessert, you need 1 flour, 1 sugar, and 1 egg. No chocolate or cocoa. Interesting. So what happens when you eat this cake? Well, Abigail, Evelyn, and Jody, you ladies with your chocolate addiction, they will love you for it. Harvey, as a doctor, will again go into the group of people who dislike majority of the dishes, and the rest of the villagers will like it.
Take it to your room.
For your efforts in the kitchen, you will get 150 points of energy and 67 points of health. So yeah, pretty easy to make, and if you want to befriend the ladies, you know how to do it now. Number 15, Pumpkin Pie. Wow, okay. Something about the winter is making the Queen of Sauce give us a lots of pies and cakes, huh? Anyhow, once again, wrong season, as pumpkins will not grow outside during the season, but from fall, you should definitely keep some pumpkins, and in order to make this gluten-free pumpkin pie, you need 1 flour, 1 milk, 1 sugar, and 1 pumpkin.
You know what the secret to this cake is? Organic pumpkin. Can you fucking believe pumpkin and chocolate instead of eggs and butter? Really? This is gonna be the tits.
You will get 225 points of energy and 101 points of health. Marnie will love this gift, and with the exception of Krobus, Leo, and Willy, everyone, even Harvey, will like it. I guess it's all the fiber in the pumpkin. So yeah, another great dish you can theoretically take with you into the mines to restore that HP and energy. Number 16. So to finish off the first half of the dishes by Queen of Sauce, we are going to get cranberry candy. And no, it's not actually candy, it's a drink, consisting of cranberry, apple, and sugar. Now, for those of you who wonder why sugar, well, if you have ever tried to eat raw cranberry, which is a mistake I will never repeat, it is extremely sour. So the apple there is not going to help that much, which explains the addition of sugar. Once again, both the cranberry and apples are fall season crops, so if you did not have them from the previous season, you're gonna have to wait for quite a while until you are able to prep this dish or drink or beverage, whichever way you prefer. And for this lovely juice, you are going to get 125 points of energy and 56 points of health. When it comes to giving this as a gift, Vincent is going to love you, and since his birthday is coming up in spring, you will have a good option to give him something. And the rest of the NPCs are separated into our 3 musketeers who dislike the dish, and the rest of them will like this beverage, not dish. Sorry. Number 17. Pizza, pizza, pizza. The first dish which you learn on year 2 during spring, or you can buy the recipe from Gus for 150 gold, or 1 pie for 600 gold as a gift, because well, normally I don't see issue with the statement everyone loves pizza, but here in the valley it's Sam and Shane who love pizza. Leah surprisingly hates pizza, again something with the flour-based dish. Elliot and Harvey join Krobus and Leo and Willy on the dislike train, and the rest of the NPCs will like this dish. You will require 1 tomato, 1 flour, 1 cheese in order to make this dish, and you will get 150 points of energy and 67 points of health. Due to the fact that both Shane and Sam celebrate their birthday before you are able to obtain the recipe from Queen of Sauce, if you do not purchase it and do not have all the necessary ingredients, you might consider purchasing it from Gus. However, 600 gold is quite pricey for a birthday gift. Number 18, Hashbrowns. Okay, second dish of the spring season is at least related to the correct season. As for Hashbrowns, you need 1 potato and 1 oil. You can also purchase the dish from Gus at his saloon, and this is another dish which gives us a buff. So for preparation of this dish, you get 90 points of energy, 40 points of health, and you get +1 to your farming skill. Now, unless you pick up this recipe in year 2, the +1 farming unfortunately is not really going to help you, as usually proficient players will reach level 10 of farming before year 2. So Hashbrowns will have really difficult time competing with quality fertilizer. Unfortunately, this dish will not really receive warm welcome. Leah hates Hashbrowns. Harvey, Krobus, Leo, and Willy again dislike this, and the rest of the NPCs like this dish. So you have to consider when you want to get this dish, as the later you get it, the more or less useful the buff will be from the dish, and also you will require the Hashbrowns and pancakes and additional things in order to make the complete breakfast. Number 19, complete breakfast. Okay, so it took us 2 years of acquiring various recipes to be able to assemble this beast of a breakfast. In order to make this, you will require 1 serving of fried egg, 1 milk, 1 serving of hash browns, and 1 serving of pancake. Therefore, if we were to break this whole thing down into ingredients and not the dishes themselves, we would require the following: 2 eggs, 1 milk, 1 potato, 1 oil, 1 flour. This dish is loved by Alex. Sebastian, on the other hand, hates it. Our 3 musketeers dislike it, and the rest of the NPCs will like it. It must be, however, fun watching either Vincent or Jasmine trying to demolish this massive plate of breakfast. But yeah, this dish is one of 2 dishes that Alex loves. So because he is such a picky eater, I cannot really imagine you being able to marry him in your first year. Number 20, Lucky Lunch. Ah, yes, my personal favorite from the whole list of dishes provided by the Queen of Sauce. And well, it's a doozy. Surprisingly, we get this recipe at the end of the spring season, which is coincidentally the season in which you grow blue jazz, which is a flower that you need for the recipe itself, combined with a sea cucumber, the yellow one, and a tortilla. The reason I like this dish so much is that I tend to combine it with the triple shot espresso and take it to the Skull Caverns, as this is another dish which has a buff, and for cooking up this tasty meal, you are going to get 100 points of energy, 45 points of health, which is not great, but you get the buff of +3 to your luck, which is the main reason, and the duration of the buff is also important. Now, the dish is not loved or hated by anyone and has our general dislike trio and the rest of the NPCs who will like this dish. However, due to the weird assembly required, I suggest you to keep this to yourself. Also, if you want to make this dish, my personal recommendation is to have 1 fish pond with the yellow sea cucumber in it. On one hand, it's not the best fish to have in your fish pond. On the other hand, it keeps producing the yellow cucumber roe quite often, so you will get at least something out of it in return. And the items required for upgrading the population are not that extremely difficult to come by. Number 21, Carp Surprise. Okay, another fish-related dish, and honestly, I would think that with the required ingredients, which are 4 carps, this could have been given to us earlier in comparison with, for example, coleslaw. You get 90 points of energy and 40 points of health, and the only difference is that Willy will switch place with Leah. Now, since carps can be caught during any season and they don't exactly sell that well, I would prefer to be able to get this dish in place of, let's say, coleslaw, which, considering how much fishing anyone can do during their first spring season, and also considering the fact that you need carp for community center, it really makes little sense to get this dish so late in the game. Number 22, Maple Bar. Now, this is the first dish from Queen of Sauce where we actually get multiple buffs at the same time. So what do we need for this lovely dessert? Maple syrup, sugar, and flour. My god, this must be sweet. And for making this tasty treat, you will get 225 points of energy and 101 points of health, along with +1 to your farming, +1 to your fishing, and +1 to your mining. And the buff duration is also really long. Honestly, if this dish would exchange the fishing for fighting, this would be the ultimate treat for Skull Caverns, as you would become quite the killing machine. overall, at the end, by the time you get to having this recipe, you should already have acquired riches from the mines, but having those buffs might still be useful, or heck, you can give it to some villagers, as Sam will love this, and the rest is the same except of Willy, Krobus, and Leo, who will dislike the maple bar. My god, how can they dislike so many dishes? What do they eat? If Willy would not like fish, I would swear they are vegans or something. When it comes to acquiring the resources for maple bar, the only difficulty which you might have is acquiring maple syrup, as this will require a tapper. However, to any player who has ever created a single beehive or bee house at his farm, he knows that he will require maple syrup. On top of that, since the 1.3 version, there is the implementation of the secret notes, and if you bring a maple syrup to the bear in the secret woods, you are gonna receive a special buff. So a lot of players by this time should have access to lots of maple syrup. Anyhow, let's move on to the next dish. Number 23, pink cake. Okay, someone needs to talk to our star of the show, as she's ruining our swimsuit figure with all these sweets. We need 1 melon, 1 flour, 1 sugar, 1 egg. So great thing is that this is a recipe in the season. This is one really loved gift, as Haley, Jasmine, Vincent, and Marnie love pink cake. Harvey and Leah dislike it, with Krobus, Leo, and Willy, and the rest of the NPCs like this. For your efforts in the kitchen, you are gonna get 250 points of energy and 112 points of health. So this is a great gift. However, honestly, by the time you get this recipe, you have already other options as gifts. I mean, we already covered cranberry juice, plum pudding, pumpkin pie. Number 24, roasted hazelnuts. Okay, now the last dish of the summer season for year 2, we are gonna get 175 points of energy, 78 points of health for the use of 3 hazelnuts. Strangely enough, it would be better to get this recipe in year 1, as unfortunately Kent, who arrives as the only NPCs who is scripted for year 2, unfortunately celebrates his birthday in spring. So that means that is another case of you giving flowers to a guy in this game for his birthday. Because we all secretly know that all men want flowers for their birthdays. And the rest of the people will respond as per usual. 3 musketeers will dislike this dish, rest of the NPCs will like this dish. Number 25, fruit salad. Okay, well, I usually put apples into my salad, but, well, we'll be dropping blueberry, melon, and apricot into this dish, and you get 263 points of energy and 118 points of health. None of the ingredients are of fall season. However, by second year, either by using the greenhouse or by storing the fruit, you should have all the necessary ingredients. Haley loves this gift, but you will have access to pink cake already, so you can give her either that or a bunch of sunflowers. Rest of the villagers will also respond to the salad the same way, with our 3 musketeers who dislike it and the rest who like it. Number 26, blackberry cobbler. Well, another dessert requiring 2 blackberries, 1 sugar, and 1 flour to make this. We get in return 175 points of energy and 78 points of health. Abigail loves this as a gift, and once again rest of everyone responds the same. Pretty straightforward dish, and thanks to the fact that the blackberry season is from the 8th of fall till the 11th of fall, you will have quite the supply of blackberries to work with for this dish. Number 27, crab cakes. Okay, so fun recipe for us the players. You will require 1 crab, 1 flour, 1 egg, 1 oil. We get 225 points of energy and 101 points of health. This dish gives us also buffs in +1 to speed and +1 to defense, so a good choice for Skull Caverns, where coincidentally you will most likely acquire this dish before you are even able to cook it on your own. Your best source is to kill the iridium crabs, as you have a 50% chance of getting this dish as a drop when you slay them. Anyhow, if you decide to use the dish as a gift, Elliot will love it, and Willie is removed from the dislike list. So only Krobus and Leo dislike this recipe. Number 28. Fiddlehead Risotto. The last dish of the fall season for year 2. And once again, totally wrong for the season, as garlic is a spring season, fern is summer forageable, and then there is the oil. These are all the required resources for the dish, which will give you 225 points of energy and 101 points of health. Clint and Kent love this as a gift. As a matter of fact, I believe Kent is the only NPC who gets both his loved gifts from TV. The rest of the NPCs have a mix of crops, minerals, and dishes from TV, or at least a dish from other friends. Everyone except of Krobus and Leo and Willie will like the dish. I personally never make this dish unless it's for Kent when I played this game, because we have already picked up plenty of dishes which give us over 200 energy and 100 HP by this time. Number 29, Poppyseed Muffin. Well, the first recipe of the winter season of year 2 is favorite for the redheads. Both Leah and Penny love this gift, and well, Robin, Sandy, Elliot, and any other redhead likes this. Of course, except of Willie, Krobus, and Leo, who dislike this recipe. In order to prepare this dish, you will need 1 poppy, 1 flour, 1 sugar. Now, you can get the muffin also from Traveling Merchant, however, the price may vary between 750 gold to 1250 gold, which seems too high for a price for a single muffin. This must be one of those organic, non-GMO ones. I mean, honestly, I'm starting to think the Traveling Merchant has to keep buying spray cans for its purple pig, which wears off fast, which is the only explanation for this high price. On top of that, we get 150 points of energy and 67 points of health. Number 30, Lobster Bisque. Okay, well, surprisingly enough, the 30th dish is really unique. It is unique due to the fact that you can get it either by waiting till the 14th of winter of year 2, or by reaching 9 hearts of friendship with Willie. This is unique, especially due to the fact that Willie is the only person in the village who gives you recipe upon 3, 5, 7, and 9 hearts. Now, this dish requires 1 lobster and 1 milk and gives you 225 points of energy and 101 points of health. This gives you boost of +3 fishing and also increases your energy bar by +50 points. This is the first dish which does this from the TV, and based on what we were able to see so far, giving meals to Willie based on how many things he dislikes is not the right way to go about doing this. But, well, we will get to that later. Despite this, it is really good dish with very little required ingredients, and the added buff to help you with fishing might help you pull off catching legendary fish of the season if you have not caught it yet, or try to fulfill the special quest by this guy, as once you get to the Fern Island and start to do quests for him, you will pick up, for example, the extended family, where you need to catch the new legendary fish, and this might help you with that as well. Now, shockingly, nobody loves this dish, which is strange considering the main ingredient is lobster, and Elliot loves lobsters. But besides Krobus and Leo, you can give this to anyone in case you do not want that fishing buff. Number 31, bruschetta. So this tasty dish, which is connected to the bread recipe which we got so long ago, we will require 1 cooked bread, 1 oil, and 1 tomato. In return, you get 113 points of energy and 50 points of health for it. And wow, that is about it. Not much more I can say. Krobus, Leo, Willy will dislike it. The rest of the NPCs will like it. However, as you can use tomato for a variety of different dishes with better energy and health recovery, consider your options unless you are a completionist and you want to cook every recipe in the game. Number 32, the last dish from Queen of Sauce, shrimp cocktail. So the fun thing about this dish is the fact that actually it has been in the game for a long time, actually since the 1.3 patch. If you would have participated in the summer luau, you would have been able to see it on the tables. Ever since then, I am checking all the tables during major town events, trying to spot if there is some new tasty meal ready for us in the future updates. This makes me wonder what might have been a dish that you would have learned otherwise on the last episode of Queen of Sauce before this was introduced in the 1.4 version. In order to make this dish, you will require 1 tomato, 1 shrimp, and 1 horseradish for that extra spicy kick. You will get 225 points of energy and 101 points of health with +1 to your fishing and +1 to your luck as a buff. Shockingly enough, Willy is not a fan, so with Krobus and Leo, they close the circle of all the disliked dishes. Rest of the villagers are going to like munching on some shrimp. So overall 32 dishes over 8 seasons, and we are gonna be comparing them to 36 recipes given to us by the NPCs. It is still more than I initially thought we are going to get, especially thanks to Leo, but sure, despite the fact that we are gonna be befriending a lot of NPCs, it is still not the full count of them. So yes, you are gonna get recipes from some of the NPCs. However, the rest of them might at least send you something in the mail. So yeah, in order to have some form of a system in this, I'm going to be going through these recipes being obtained in an alphabetical order from the names of the NPCs. And I will try to compare how many dishes are suitable gifts which have better buffs. So let's go 1 round of 30 something additional dishes. Man, I just hope this won't be 2 hours long. And let's determine at the end which ones are better. Caroline. So the first recipe on our list is parsnip soup. This recipe will be obtained in the mail on the next day after you level up your friendship with Caroline. For this recipe, you will need 1 parsnip, 1 milk, and 1 vinegar. In return for your efforts in the kitchen, you will get 85 points of energy and 38 points of health for eating this. As a gift, for example, Pam will love this, Pierre will hate this, and rest of the NPCs behave as usual. Nothing amazing about the parsnip soup, as usually most people do the initial 15 parsnips of crops, as this helps you increase the farming to your first level so you can get scarecrows. After that, most players turn away from growing parsnips. However, if you want to get the quality crop bundle completed by the summer season, there is the possibility to drop off 5 gold star parsnips. So theoretically, many of you might still want to chase after those 5 parsnips, and the rest of them can be sold off for a cheap profit, since it doesn't take that long for parsnips to reach full maturity. Number 2, vegetable medley. For this recipe, you require 1 tomato and 1 beet, and in return you get 165 points of energy and 74 points of health. Problem with the recipe is that beet is a fall season crop which you can get from Sandy at the oasis, so unless you unlock the boss, you will not be able to make this dish. Also keep in mind that your chances of getting beets out of mixed seeds are heavily reduced, so keep this in mind. Now, if you get vegetable medley, 3 NPCs will actually love this recipe. This includes Jody, Leah, and Lewis. Rest will behave the same. Also, because you cannot get these gifts just by playing the game, but by actually going out of your way to befriend Caroline, we need to discuss if these 2 dishes are worth your while being obtained. And as seen, none of these dishes give you any buffs, and your only motivation is to have gifts theoretically for 4 NPCs. Most players might struggle befriending Caroline. The best way to befriend Caroline is to grow a stupid amount of spangles so that you can keep giving these to her. Unfortunately, the other recipes which she loves include fish taco, green tea, and tropical curry. Unless you are playing this on the computer version and you have access to the Fern Island, you will not be able to make tropical curry. And keep in mind that most players will actually try to befriend Caroline by reaching 2 hearts, because since the 1.4 patch, the tea sapling has been introduced. And ever since then, a lot of players have been trying to grow their own tea. So this is one of the possibilities. However, besides the fact, those are the 2 recipes for Caroline, so let's take a look at Clint next. Our local blacksmith with big crush on Emily. Clint will be responsible for upgrading our tools, and since he loves a large variety of gems and also 2 dishes we have already covered, befriending Clint can be easy, as you will be stopping by his blacksmith shop quite often. Now, these things can be given to him, for example, when you crack open a bunch of geodes, so you don't have that much struggle trying to befriend him. And once you reach 3 hearts on the next day, you will receive in the mail a recipe for number 3, algae soup. All you need to cook this dish is 4 pieces of green algae, which is easy to come across, as in your many attempts and fishing, you will come across algae. For this recipe, you will get 75 points of energy and 33 points of health. I would honestly suggest to anyone to keep the green algae for constructional reasons, as making money with fish ponds is much better use of the resource. However, if you have an abundance of it and you are a completionist, go nuts. Now, this dish will not have a warm welcome, as Kent hates it, Penny enjoys our dislike trio, and the rest of the villagers will like it. However, I'm sure they are just being polite, so how about we take a look at another recipe from Clint, which is number 4, Bean Hot Pot. For this tasty dish, after which you most likely do not want to be in rooms without proper ventilation, you will require 2 green beans, and you get 125 points of energy and 56 points of health in return. And on top of that, you are going to get 2 buffs with plus 30 energy and plus 32 to your magnetism. This dish is loved by Demetrius, which probably explains why he does so much research outside of Robin's workshop, or why probably the fruit bats in your cave are dropping things from gas poisoning. Except of Demetrius, there is no change to what the reaction of liking the dish would be, so our trio will still dislike the dish. And since we are discussing our local scientists, we can discuss what 2 dishes we get from befriending him. First dish which we get from Demetrius is number 5, fried mushroom. If you get Demetrius to install mushroom growers in your farm's cave, it should be really easy for you to make the dish. You are going to need 1 common mushroom, 1 morel, and 1 oil. If you are not gonna install a mushroom cave, you are gonna have to wait for spring and fall seasons in order to harvest these mushrooms. In return for your efforts, you will get 135 points of energy and 60 points of health. The buff for the recipe is plus 2 to your attack, so it's really convenient that you might use it in Mountain Cave to fight off the enemies while you are trying to mine for some goodies. George will love you for this gift, and considering how many times did I try to mess with his brakes on his wheelchair and push him into some direction because there were just so many rivers around. Other than that, the only difference is giving this as a gift to Harvey, and he is gonna dislike the dish. When it comes to befriending Demetrius, you have the option of bean hot pot, strawberries, ice cream, and rice pudding. Therefore, it is easy to befriend him. And the second dish from our local scientist is number 6, Autumn's Bounty. Now, shockingly enough, majority of players will come across this dish before they have the recipe. All you need to do is complete the exotic foraging bundle in your community center and you will receive 5 portions of this dish. However, if you want to prepare this, you will require 1 yam and 1 pumpkin, making it the perfect full recipe. For this dish, you will get 220 points of energy and 99 points of health. On top of that, you will receive buff to your foraging and to your defense. Therefore, this dish, I think about it would most likely be best in the mushroom level in the mountain mines before you reach level 10 of foraging skill and choose the botanist skill. As a gift, Lewis will love you for giving this to him, and the rest of the villagers will be our neutral reaction as likes and dislikes go. And from Demetrius, we move on to Emily, a person who has seen a major rework in the 1.4 patch with the addition of sewing, or being able to make your own clothes. And actually, all the dishes so far covered and all the future dishes have their use in sewing. Because apparently, when you spill stir fry on your shirt, you get a camo t-shirt. But when I try it at home, I only get 2nd degree burns and ruined t-shirts. So don't go throwing pumpkin pies and other tasty dishes on your clothes. Don't waste food, people. Anyhow, since we got already a ton of data to go over, please forgive me for not including the type of apparel you receive when you are actually mixing this with cloth at the sewing machine. It would take a whole lot more time in order to cover this, and we are trying to compare the recipes and not the clothes. So let's move on to the first dish which you get from Emily. Number 7, salad. For this food, which is normally eaten by my food, you will require 1 leek, 1 dandelion, and 1 vinegar. And for your hard work for foraging for these goodies, you get 113 points of energy, and 50 points of health. This feels like a perfect spring dish that is if you would be able to give Emily enough shiny things, as she really loves the amethyst and aquamarine and many more things. Leah will love this as a gift, and rest of the people are separated into your usual likes and dislike groups. Number 8. Red plate. Ah yes, the second dish from Emily, and this one is really pretty mess, as you need to combine cabbage and radish. So you get 2 crunchy textures in your dish. This is going to be some loud crunchy chewing, but apparently Penny loves the dish, and the rest, well, everyone feels the same when it comes to liking and disliking the food. You know, I'm starting to notice a pattern here. It makes me wonder, what does Willy eat? Is he on liquid diet? I don't think he's the type to try those idiotic juice cleanses, but who knows? Now, since you will be interacting with Emily through either Clint, as he has a crush on her and will want you to give her things, or by fulfilling her quest, or even by newly added 1.5 special quest, befriending Emily should not be that difficult if you will spend enough time in mines or will have bunch of sheep living at your farm. After Emily, we move on to the weirdest couple in the whole valley, the definition of yin and yang, Sweet Evelyn and her not so fast but furious half George. So let's start with Evelyn. Besides the point that once you finish your greenhouse, she's going to bestow upon you the knowledge on how to make gardening pot, well, she is a grandmom, and therefore, she does what all grandmoms are notorious for: baking. So the first dish which you get once you level up your friendship with Evelyn to not 3 but 4 hearts, and not by actually email or mail, but actually going to her house and seeing a cutscene, is number 9, cookies. Now for this tasty treat, you will require 1 flour, 1 sugar, and 1 egg. And as a reward, you get 90 points of energy and 40 points of health. Shockingly enough, Leah and Harvey dislike this, with Krobus, Leo, and Willy. The rest is perfectly fine with the recipe. Maybe she puts raisins as a secret ingredient into the cookies. Yuck! I don't like raisins. But it's funny how her doctor does not like the cookies. Maybe after he moved in, she was baking him cookies all the time, which made him dislike them? That is about the only explanation I can come across. The second dish from Sweet Evelyn is also sweet and soft. Maybe Harvey should hook them up with some dentures. Anyhow, the other dish is number 10, rice pudding. Okay, so in comparison to cookies, you actually receive this recipe via mail. However, for this tasty treat, you will require 1 milk, 1 sugar, 1 rice, and in return you get 115 points of energy and 51 points of health. This dish has interesting gifting changes, as Demetrius loves it, and except of Emily, Harvey, Krobus, Leah, Leo, Willy, everyone likes it. I'm really starting to think Harvey is not a huge fan of Evelyn's cooking. Maybe she's just using old pots so the bottom there has that burnt layer. Who knows? Unfortunately, none of the two dishes have any major effects, and seeing as Demetrius loves lots of other things, there are better options as a gift. Therefore, I personally do not see the need to obtain these unless you are a completionist. Also, what you need to know is that you can use both goat milk and duck eggs in order to help prepare these dishes. And moving from Evelyn, get it? Cause George... oh, never mind. Let's see what George has to offer to us. Now we will notice a fun thing with both of George's dishes, and that is that main ingredient is eel in both of them. And even more shocking is that Evelyn hates both of the dishes. I guess George is one of those people who after cooking leaves the kitchen looking like a war zone and does not clean after himself. That is the only explanation I came up with. But less speculation, more actual data. Number 11, fried eel. For this dish you require 1 eel and 1 oil. As a result of your work, you get 75 points of energy and 33 points of health. On top of this, you will get a buff to your luck, with not the longest time of the buff lasting. So as I mentioned, Evelyn hates the dish. Jody, on the other hand, loves it. But hey, what do I know? She loves it when you come to dinner and drop a largemouth bass on the floor. Since this is a fish-related dish, Willie will actually like it, and instead of him, Emily will dislike it. Now, the main reason why players will be interested in increasing friendship with George is that the dishes are great in increasing your luck, and most players will not bother wasting their eels on fried eel, as they will try to get the second dish. Number 12, spicy eel. This thing has become somewhat famous thanks to most players coming across it, as serpents might drop them in these skull caverns, and with the 1.4 version and implementation of the Desert Trader, you are now able to get this recipe also by trading for it with 1 ruby. But let's say it's the good old days, or you have not yet unlocked the bus to the oasis. If you want to make this dish, you will need the following list of ingredients: 1 eel and 1 hot pepper. By making this dish, you get a dish that grants you with 115 points of energy, 51 points of health, and on top of that, you get 2 buffs, +1 luck and +1 speed. The dish again is being hated by Evelyn, loved by Abigail, and Emily joins our disliked trio. Rest will like the dish. I guess Emily is just not a fan of eels, but yes, I would recommend being able to craft the recipe, as well as you will not always have a ruby, and it's really easy to befriend George. Sure, he loves only fried mushrooms and leeks, but because of how easy it is for players to come across leeks in their first year during spring, I would recommend having this recipe handy if possible. And from George, we move on to Gus, and no, unfortunately, the tropical curry will not be included, as this recipe is obtained once you unlock the resort on the Fern Island. So I know it's part of 1.5 patch, but as same as banana pudding, I cannot go over it less. We can actually get this recipe from the NPCs, and since many of you are still complaining that handheld consoles and other versions of the game do not have these patches or data yet implemented, I really don't want to mix in additional dishes which are not obtained by either watching the TV show or befriending the NPCs. So let's move on to the first dish. Salmon dinner. Okay, so the first dish is mostly fall related, as we require 1 amaranth, 1 salmon. However, we also need something green on the board, and this dish is so fancy, a regular plate is too good. So by combining salmon, amaranth, and kale, you get a dish that gives you 125 points of energy and 56 points of health. In comparison to majority of dishes we get from the other NPCs, so far this one for a 3 hearts relationship has more energy and health. When it comes to gifting this, we have one person who loves the dish, and that is Alex. Shockingly enough, Emily hates the dish, and since it's fish related, Willie will join the rest of the NPCs, leaving only Krobus and Leo to dislike it. Now honestly, I think whoever tries to marry Alex will have to take this route, as this is going to take you at least 2 years to learn the complete breakfast, and catching salmon is not that difficult, and since you will require amaranth also for Marnie, well, theoretically you should be able to obtain all these ingredients for the dish, so this should not be that much of an issue. Problem might be in start to befriending Gus, as he is picky with what he loves, and you would need to give him just too many daffodils. Gus has received a rework and loves the curry, but what players might be able to give him is more likely diamond or orange, as escargot is giving to player once they reach 5 hearts with Willie. And the second dish from the owner of the local saloon is Number 14, cranberry sauce. A dish which will surprisingly help you increase your mining skill by combining sugar and cranberries. On top of that, you get +2 to your mining, and also you get 125 points of energy and 56 points of health. Now the buff does not last the longest, and I think there are just overall better options for you to increase your mining, so it will heavily depend on anyone's preference. But sure, if you are motivated to get the resort started and learn the curry dish, you will then be able to befriend both Caroline and Gus. When it comes to the gift, Harvey will join our dislike trio, so the rest of the recipients will like the dish, or should I say the condiment. Therefore, it is up to you if you have a decent supply of oranges. After Gus's saloon, we transition to another married couple, Jody and Kent. Unfortunately, due to how Kent is scripted, those recipes are only accessible to year 2, so let us start therefore with Jody first. The first dish you can get from Jody for leveling up your friendship up to 3 points will get you Number 15, fried calamari. A dish that requires 1 squid, 1 wheat, and 1 oil, which makes sense. I would probably add beer and egg to make a thicker batter, but anyhow, the only time you will really be able to make this dish is when you catch squid, and that is only during the winter time. When it comes to gifting, there is one person who really loves the dish, and that is Pierre. And because it's fish related, Willie also likes the dish, leaving only Krobus and Leo as people who don't like it. The second dish that Jody will share with you is Number 16, ice cream. For this tasty treat, you will need to increase your friendship up to 7 points, and you will require 1 milk, 1 sugar. You get, for this, 100 points of energy and 45 points of health. Now, shockingly enough, Demetrius is the only person who loves this recipe, which to me is shocking, as both Sam and Vincent are her sons, so I would think they would prefer this bit more. Unfortunately, this dish is a hard sell for a 7 hearts with Jody. This is especially due to the fact that every summer, Alex is selling the ice cream at the stand if it's not raining, and honestly, I usually tend to buy ice cream in bulk and give it to Penny and the kids as they pass from the museum. Now, surprisingly, This cold treat is disliked by more people as Emily, Harvey, and Leah join the disliked trio. After the first year when Kent shows up, you are then able to befriend him and you can get 2 recipes from him. Unfortunately, as Kent loves the dishes only obtained by the TV, which happen past his birthday, it will be more difficult, but surprisingly enough, the first dish is loved by his wife, and the dish is number 17, crispy bass. For this tasty meal, you need 1 largemouth bass, 1 flour, and 1 oil. For the efforts in the kitchen, you get 90 points of energy and 40 points of health, and the buff for this dish is plus 64 to your magnetism. As I already mentioned, Jody is the person who loves it, and since it's fish-related dish, Willie likes it, leaving only Krobus and Leo to dislike it. Honestly, since you can only obtain this dish in year 2, you will have plenty of opportunity to get the largemouth bass, as you can get it in every season. So overall, the effects are not the best as per usual when it comes to the dish, and you can get magnet ring and other meals to increase your magnetism. And the second dish from Kent you get is number 18, super meal. This is an interesting one from Kent. In order to make this meal, you will require 1 bok choy, 1 cranberry, and 1 artichoke. So, as my director has informed me, a lot of you might get triggered by me saying this in this order. So, in order to make it right, for super meal, you will require 1 artichoke, 1 bok choy, and 1 cranberry. Are you happy now? Seriously, you really made me stop the video in order to put this in. You will get 160 points of energy and 72 points of health. And also, in the buff department, you get +1 to your speed, and your energy bar is increased by 40 points. Well as with the crispy bass, since these 2 dishes cannot be obtained before the second year, getting the required ingredients should not be an issue. And when it comes to gifting this meal, Harvey will love this dish, and our trio will dislike it, and the rest will like it. Now, because befriending Kent is an issue due to how the dishes which he loves are received later, so you need to keep giving him daffodils, and this might take quite a while. And from Kent we move on to a brand new NPC added to the 1.5 update. I will be therefore putting in a theoretical spoiler, as you might be tempted to skip this. Once again, if you are playing this on consoles, handhelds, or any other versions of devices where you might experience Stardew Valley and you don't want to have some of these things spoiled for yourself, I will be leaving timestamps in the description of the video so you can skip past Leo and get to the next NPC. Now, Leo is a really strange one, as you do not actually meet him in Stardew Valley or in the Oasis, but on the Fern Islands. This is why I wanted to put in the spoiler alert, just in case you do not have access to this on your platform and you don't want to have this spoiled. So, in order to befriend Leo, you actually need to first drop off 1 golden walnut, which grows in front of the house, to the parrot that is inside of the house with Leo. And on top of that, you will need to gather additional 10 golden walnuts to unlock access to the farm, which you will be able to utilize on the Fern Island, in order for the following cutscene to appear. Only after this, you are able to start giving him gifts and befriending Leo to learn 2 recipes. And also, Wiki claims that when you reach 6 hearts, you will see Leo move from the Fern Island to the valley, where he will befriend the kids and also Linus. However, before this all happens, we need to take a look at the 2 recipes which were added with the 1.5 patch. So let's take a look at the first dish. Number 19, poi. I think that's how you pronounce it. I'm not really sure, but let's go with poi. Poi, if I'm even pronouncing it correctly, is made by using 4 taro roots, which can be grown on the island or during summer on your farm. Shockingly enough, this is the only dish which is loved by the person who gives you the recipe, which means this is the first dish that Leo does not dislike, leaving only Krobus and Willy to dislike it. For this lovely dish, you get 75 points of energy and 33 points of health, and there are no buffs from the meal, but it nicely adds to the overall list of dishes you can get. Number 20. Mango sticky rice. For this tasty dish, you will require 1 mango, 1 coconut, and 1 rice. You will get 113 points of energy, 50 points of health, and also plus 3 to your defense as a nice buff. However, it does not last for that long. Now honestly, I don't think you will be able to make this dish early after you get it unless you prepared yourself with enough muscles. You will not be able to otherwise purchase mango sapling from the island trader, and it is going to take you 28 days to reach full maturity. So theoretically, since probably the only gift you are going to be able to give to Leo is duck feather, and with the 1.5 update now, your ducks can swim in the water, I'm sure plenty of you will stick to this strategy, as Leo also loves mango, ostrich egg, and poi as previously mentioned. When it comes to giving mango sticky rice as a gift, Sandy is going to love it, Krobus and Willy are going to dislike it, and Leo surprisingly is going to like it with the rest of the NPCs. However, I'm quite sure that a lot of the players are gonna be chasing after mangoes once they get onto the Ginger Island. So theoretically, if you have enough ducks, you should be able to befriend Leo and get the second recipe eventually. After Leo, we move on to our favorite Mayor Lewis. So, not so secret boyfriend of Marnie and a person who I'm sure for some reason is funneling the town funds and smelting a golden statue for himself. Anyhow, despite all of that, let's take a look at the following 2 Italian cuisine inspired dishes. Number 21, spaghetti. Ah yes, who does not like good spaghetti dish? Even Sheldon loves spaghetti with cut up hot dogs. Well, shockingly, only Robin loves this dish, and the rest of the NPCs are separated into your normal likes and dislikes parties, if I can call them that. And for this dish, you will require 1 flour and 1 tomato. Now, this is the only dish which you can purchase from Gus at his saloon. However, you can only purchase the finished dish, which I am assuming was the only way there would be possibility to make you to get the recipe as a gift from Lewis otherwise. Now, I have been looking over Lewis and I could have sworn he used to like or loved parsnips, but now it is not an option, and as the first NPC you ever get to celebrate birthday with, it's gonna be a bit tricky to befriend him. However, since parsnip is now not something you can give to Lewis, you will need to work hard to befriend him, as he loves a lot of dishes including Autumn's Bounty, glazed yams, vegetable medley, hot pepper, and green tea. This means that it will be difficult to befriend him. Sure, during summer you can keep giving him hot peppers all the time, and if you do this, you will be able to eventually reach the second dish. Number 22, eggplant parmesan or parmesan. Probably parmesan, right? This is an interesting dish as it might be a good addition to your mining expedition. The effects of the dish, for which you require 1 eggplant and 1 tomato, will give you 175 points of energy and 78 points of health. However, the buffs are what we are interested in, as you get +1 to your mining and +3 to your defense for a decent amount of time. So since there is actually not some kind of armor you can craft and all the clothes are purely aesthetical, you will require these dishes in case you are struggling in the skull caverns, for example. So here, honestly, it's difficult to motivate yourself to reach those 7 hearts, just because if you do this, the first reward is a dish which you can purchase in bulk and it does not have any benefits. But eventually you might be able to have a good addition to your mining expeditions. Now okay, let's say you are a completionist and you befriend Lewis to reach this recipe. Once you do this, what can you do with this when it comes to giving it as a gift? Well, Jody will love this dish, so you have this as a possibility. One of many, that is. And the rest is your normal like and dislike parties. On this one, it's really difficult, and if you will have to make the educated decision if you want to learn the dish or not, I will have to leave that up to you. And following Lewis, we move on to Linus. No, not that Linus, this Linus. However, it's most likely by this time you have seen a commercial with him for honey or some other thing, so let's focus, people, as we are still not going over all these dishes. So okay, most players will be trying to reach 4 hearts due to wild bait, so you are already going to reach the first recipe. Number 23, sashimi. This is that long-awaited other dish inspired by certain cuisine. In order to make this dish, you need any fish whatsoever. This means that if you will have bunch of smallmouth bass or other fish, you can use them, and in return you get 75 points of energy and 33 points of health. Shockingly enough, this is the first dish where we see a massive change in gifting possibilities. Sebastian loves it, Emily, Evelyn, and Kent hate it, Krobus and Leo dislike it, and the Willy, he feels neutral about this one. So far we have not had this much of a separation, but okay. I do love me a really practical dish, and considering that you will be fishing a lot initially in order to make money, and Linus is easier to make friends with, especially considering how many things you can give to him, getting to wild bait and eventually the next dish should not be that much of an issue. Number 24, fish taco. For this amazing dish, you will require 1 tuna, 1 tortilla, 1 red cabbage, and 1 mayonnaise. Shockingly enough, you cannot make this dish without watching Queen of Sauce, so this has a fun twist, as so far none of the NPC dishes required Queen of Sauce ingredients. Anyhow, for making this tasty dish, you will get 165 points of energy, 74 points of health, and buff +2 to your fishing for a nice amount of time. However, I would suggest the use of other dishes for helping with the fishing. As a gift, this is a great option for Caroline and Gus. Emily hates it, Krobus and Leo dislike it, and the rest of the NPCs, including Willy, will like the dish. Now, since I personally go for Mushroom Cave, you can keep giving Linus common mushrooms, and he will eventually budge and give you the secret to the wild bait. But later, especially once you venture into the oasis, giving him cactus or coconut will be much easier option. And from Linus, we are going to talk about our favorite animal seller, Marnie. The only person in this game who would probably not enjoy a steak dinner, as she loves her cows way too much. Which probably explains the first dish she gets to offer to us. Number 25, Pale Broth. This dish seems like the perfect match for the white fungus soda sold by the Joja Mart. But let's face it, how many of us have came across the disgusting wild algae in mines and we either ate it or threw it out to free up space in our inventory for something more useful or valuable? Well, this is a genius way to make sure that everything you might have come across will have a specific use, as you will require only 2 wild algae, and in order to make this tasty snot-like looking dish, I'm not sure if it's a soup or a dip, but this just does not look right. Anyhow, for this snot in a bowl, you are going to get 125 points of energy and 56 points of health, which, considering the fact that wild algae will give you only 20 points of energy and 9 points of health, is actually an incredible change of stats. It, however, does not change the fact that nobody in the village loves this dish, and heck, even Penny joins our trio of musketeers who dislike the dish. And the following dish is number 26, Rhubarb Pie. Now this tasty pie will require 1 rhubarb, 1 flour, and 1 sugar. And for your efforts in the kitchen, you are going to get 215 points of energy and 96 points of health, which is pretty amazing, and considering that many players will venture out to the oasis for their iridium, stopping by Sandy's shop should not be an issue. Speaking of Sandy and the rest of the gang, these are the possible gifting options. Jody and Maru love this dish. Harvey, again, in his fight for a low sugar diet, joins our trio of dislikers, and the rest will like this because it's a pie. Seriously, what did Evelyn do to this poor man that he dislikes pies and cakes so much? Anyhow, since with Marnie you will have plenty of interactions, from getting your dog or cat to having to acquire Lewis's lucky shorts to getting Amaranth, there will be plenty of chances for you as a player to befriend her, or theoretically you can grab the lucky shorts and poison the governor during the summer luau event. It is totally up to you. Problem which you might face is that to give Marnie something that she loves, well, you're gonna struggle. She loves diamonds, farmer's lunch, pink cake, and pumpkin pie. And since the pie and cake are year 2 recipes from Queen of Sauce, your best option is either to give her a ton of quartz, as if you are using the recycling machines on your farm, you should have plenty of refined quartz, and therefore any quartz which you come across in the mines can be given to her. Or you can give her farmer's lunch, which is fairly simple recipe. However, this one is obtained by increasing your farming to level 3, so you should not struggle here too much, hopefully. From Marnie, we move on to another lady from Stardew Valley, specifically Pam, our favorite bus driver. So let's take a look at what Penny's mom has to teach us when it comes to cooking. Cheesy cauliflower. For this tasty dish, you will need 1 ripe cauliflower and 1 cheese. This recipe is given to us on the next day after reaching 3 hearts with Pam. Our trio will dislike everything. I wonder if they would prefer broccoli cheese. No? Well, never mind. Mary will love this dish, and well, it looks like the rest of the villagers will eat just about everything with a couple of exceptions, and you can count 1, 2, 3 of them. Now, due to the fact that Pam loves a large quantity of items, and she has received rework with the 1.5 patch, where she now also enjoys pina colada, you have options of beer, mead, parsnip, pale ale, and many more things to gift to her. Since you will eventually unlock the boss, Pam will have a job where she will be an easy person to give gifts to, especially if you have bunch of kegs already to produce artisan items. This way, reaching 7 hearts should not be an issue, as you can get the second dish, which is number 28, stuffing. Now this dish seems like a good fit with the cranberry sauce for some Thanksgiving dinner. However, since my stay in United States was only temporary, I never experienced this holiday of stuffing your face, but if you want Pam's recipe, you will need 1 bread, 1 cranberry, and 1 hazelnut. Again, another recipe which you can get either only from buying it from Gus or watching the Queen of Sauce. And you are going to get 170 points of energy and 76 points of health, followed with a nice buff of being sleepy, and also your defense will increase by 2 points. I'm guessing since your tummy will expand, you will become much larger object, and maybe the critters in caves and mines will be more scared to attack you, who knows. Now, strangely enough, both dishes will require ingredients that would be learned or acquired from Queen of Sauce, which can be actually learned faster by being purchased from Gus, as I already mentioned. So it is up to you. However, the rest of the ingredients for both dishes you might have to get on your own, as trying to get tuna, mayo, cranberry, hazelnut, and the others will not come cheap from traveling merchant. After Pam, we will be covering 3 NPCs who give us only 1 recipe each. Before we move on, however, let's talk quickly about the gifting possibilities for stuffing. Evelyn will love stuffing, and then we have our dislike trio, and the rest of the NPCs are going to like stuffing. Now let's move on to those 3 individuals with 3 individually unique dishes. Okay, so fun thing for those who are still watching. If you spent 3 days writing and rewriting a script, it is highly possible that by the time you are gonna be recording and putting the footage together, you are gonna realize that some recipes might fall through the cracks. And in particular, I have no idea how it is possible that I was able to get the footage for the blueberry tart and how you receive it in the mail once you receive 3 hearts with Pierre. On the other hand, I have no idea how I totally forgot to write any script for it, so yeah, this is one of those situations. So anyhow, since we are talking about our beloved Pierre, who will be taking most of our hard-earned money in order for us to make more money, and even if we would decide to marry Abigail, he will never give us the family and friends discount. It's gonna be kind of a tricky situation, due to the fact that befriending Pierre is extremely annoying. He loves only one thing: fried calamari, the recipe which you get from Jody. And yeah, I honestly really don't understand how are these recipes which are beloved by other NPCs related to one another, because besides the fact that Jody goes to shop for groceries and work out at Pierre's shop, they have absolutely nothing in common. So befriending Pierre will be extremely annoying, because you will only be able to keep giving him daffodils and dandelions until you get 3 hearts with Jody, learn the fried calamari recipe, and you're gonna reach winter season and catch a bunch of squid. Otherwise, you are gonna suffer until you receive the blueberry tart. Now, once you get the lovely blueberry tart, let's take a look at what do you need in order to make it. You require 1 blueberry, 1 wheat flour, 1 sugar, and 1 egg. For your efforts in the kitchen, you get 125 points of energy and 56 points of health. Again, when it comes to gifting, I'm not really sure how this is possible, but the only person who loves this gift, or this dish, or actually this is more like a dessert, not a dish, is Linus. And Harvey, once again, joins our trio because he apparently has some issue with sugar, and the rest of the NPCs are going to like the recipe. Now, honestly, due to the fact that it's gonna take you a while to befriend Pierre, due to how difficult it will be for you to give him something decent, it might take you a while to get to the blueberry tart. However, because a lot of players are gonna be foraging through their spring season, coming across daffodils and dandelions is not that difficult. I have tried on multiple occasions to keep giving Haley bunch of daffodils, and unfortunately, because the flower dance event has been moved so that you have the required 4 hearts necessary in order to have dance partner, you can actually keep giving the flowers to Pierre here, and at least in return you're gonna have a tasty dish to eventually cook during the season of summer. And that is gonna be it for Pierre. Not that much more we can add currently, so let's move on to the next NPC. So let's start off with Robin, the second official NPC you ever meet in the game, and you can get only 1 recipe once you reach 7 hearts. Pumpkin soup. Wow, so many uses for pumpkin. Jack-o'-lantern, pies, soups, pickled pumpkins, even pumpkin juice. You just cannot eat raw pumpkin. Let us take a look at this interesting dish which you can get once you reach 7 hearts with Robin. You will be able to get 200 points of energy and 90 points of health, followed by 2 buffs, +2 to your luck, +2 to your defense, which honestly sounds like a great dish for mining, as you will be nicely satiated by the soup and you will be able to last longer in mines. When it comes to gifting this, it's a good thing to know that her son loves mom's cooking, so Sebastian will love this, and I'm guessing Demetrius is in trouble as he does not love his wife's cooking. Rest of the population will be, per usual, separated into the two parties of liking the dish and disliking the dish. And since you will be seeing Robin a lot from her missing eggs quest to new special quest bulletin board that was added with the 1.5 patch, to any construction that will happen at your farm, Robin will be squeezing you dry financially and resource-wise, so you will have plenty of opportunities to give her something she loves, like spaghetti, peach, and goat cheese. And if you are struggling to find her, well, you can theoretically try to find her on Tuesdays when she's working out with the rest of the ladies at Pierre's. Now, it is actually nice that since Robin and Louis are the first two people you ever meet in the village, they are connected with their passion for pasta, as you need 3 hearts with Louis to get the recipe, as we discussed previously. On the other hand, I'm thinking giving her hardwood might be an issue with her husband. So let's just move on to the next person. Also, keep in mind that with the 1.5 update during the winter season, you are able to participate in the Festival of Ice, where the traveling merchant is now selling goods, and one of these things is pumpkin soup. And surprisingly enough, if you do not have access sashimi, soon after, Sebastian will have his birthday. So theoretically, if you grab the pumpkin soup for 250 gold, you might be able to give this to him. Other than that, the traveling merchant might have the soup, however, it's less likely, and if she will have it, it will be super overpriced. After Robin, we move on to our Oasis Flower, or the other redhead, whichever compliment you want to give Sandy for staying at the Oasis and running her store and not going bankrupt somehow until we get there. So, yeah. This beautiful dessert flower who lives in the Oasis will teach you the recipe after reaching 7 hearts. And you get from her Tomka soup. This local delicacy, and I'm saying local despite the fact that only coconut can be acquired at the Oasis, as you need also shrimp and common mushroom, is an interesting dish as it will give you 175 points of energy and plus 78 points of health. And on top of that, it will give you 2 buffs. Plus 2 to your farming, and plus 30 to your maximum energy bar. So honestly, due to the fact that Sandy is always at the store except of when it's her birthday, and she will be with Emily outside by the bus stop, you will have plenty of opportunities to give her gifts. Now I am assuming that due to the local conditions, she cannot have too many plants around, so she really loves flowers as gifts. Now Sandy has received the rework with the 1.5 patch, and now if you reach 7 hearts with Leo and you can learn how to make mango sticky rice, you will be able to learn this dish and theoretically gift it to Sandy. After Sandy, we move to a person who has a lots of internal demons and selfishly will try to make you learn a dish which coincidentally he loves himself. So let's talk about Shane. The first dish you get from him is pepper poppers. So as I mentioned, Shane will try to teach you this recipe for which you will need 1 hot pepper and 1 cheese. Jalapenos, filled with cream cheese and bacon. I mean, yes, this is what you need for the dish. And you are going to get 130 points of energy and 58 points of health, and in return, plus you are going to get 2 buffs, and that is plus 2 to your farming and plus 1 to your speed. Now, I can totally understand why these are the bonuses which you get for the dish, as after you eat the spicy peppers, you will most likely have to run to the bathroom, which is where the +1 speed comes in handy, and the +2 your farming is the fertilizer which you will be getting as the result of your actions. Honestly, since you have a couple of easy options as gifts for Shane, reaching 3 hearts should not be an issue, as sure you cannot give him immediately the pepper poppers, but you have the option like just the hot peppers, or beer, or pizza. However, who else is there that loves this dish? Maru. Wow, this girl loves plenty of dishes. The rest is your typical like and dislike parties. The second dish we learned from Shane, however, is Strange Bun. Now I have no idea how Shane came across this recipe, as this will require the player to use flour, periwinkle, and avoid mayonnaise. Sure, Krobus is finally loving something which is not a meal but a condiment, but how did Shane come across this recipe is beyond me. For consuming of this dish, you are going to get 100 points of energy and 45 points of health. Shockingly enough, since this contains avoid mayonnaise, everyone, including Krobus, hates this dish. Why would you give me a recipe when you hate it yourself? Even if you try to give this to Shane after reading his message which you receive in the mail, you will get a negative response for giving him your trash. I'm guessing this is because we theoretically close Jojo Mart and he loses his job? Hey, do not blame me. I keep saying after Jojo Mart shuts down, Pierre should hire you, or you should come work at my farm part-time or full-time. So this will be definitely up to the players if they want to mess with this dish and reaching those 7 hearts. Now, the dish surprisingly received bunch of changes, such as being introduced at launch to the game. However, in the 1.1 patch, oak resin was changed to void mayonnaise, and in the 1.4 version, the dish was changed to be sent to you as player once you reach 7 hearts instead of 3 hearts. But yeah, that leaves the last person, the only person who dislikes 95% of everything so far covered, and is also the only person who will be able to teach you 3 up to 4 recipes. That depends if Queen of Sauce will not teach you the lobster bisque before. Willie, our good friend, who is introduced to us on the 2nd day of spring when he returns from his fishing trip out on the sea. Again, warning for the headphone user. And gives us a great source of protein and potential income by giving us his old bamboo rod. Seriously, stop laughing and get your heads out of the gutter, people. Let's go over the dishes. Chowder. For this tasty dish, you will require 1 clam and 1 milk. Now this seems like a pretty straightforward dish, however I'm wondering if you need to boil the milk in a saucepan, and in a pan you can fry up the clam or the scallop, and then with the added crispy texture you drop it into the seasoned milk, or who knows what's the proper way to make this dish. Anyhow, for this dish you will get 225 points of energy and 101 points of health. And the shocking thing, as the +1 buff to your fishing, lasts for a crazy amount of time. As a gift, the dish itself is more liked than disliked, as Willy joins the rest and Krobus and Leo will only be the people, if we can consider Krobus people, they will dislike it. After you reach 5 hearts, we get another recipe. Escargot. For this French cuisine inspired dish, you will need 1 snail and 1 garlic to kill the taste of snail in your mouth. This is shockingly another dish from Willy which will help you buff up your fishing by 1 for the same time as chowder. And on top of that, you get 225 points of energy and 101 points of health. Now, the only person who really loves this dish is Gus, as he is a local gourmand. However, Willy joins the fellas in the dislike group, which makes really little sense since he is the person who teaches you the recipe in the first place. However, despite the fact, the rest of the NPCs will like it. So, let's take a look at the next dish. Fish stew. Well, the third dish of the third musketeer, who this time does not like it at least. And yet again, we have similar results as the 2 previous dishes. So let's take a closer look at it. In order to make this stew, you will require 1 crayfish, 1 mussel, and 1 periwinkle, and on top of that, 1 tomato. You will get 225 points of energy and 101 points of health. However, this time the buff to your fishing is actually +3, and it lasts again for over 16 minutes. And the last thing which you can learn from Willy when you reach 9 hearts is Lobster Bisque. So you have the unique chance to get this by either befriending Willy or just waiting till it's shown on the TV. This dish again gives great buffs to fishing and lots of health and energy, so it's good to know that Willy will help you out with fishing a lot, and fishing can be a great source of income. Plus, with fish ponds you have more ways to make money. Sure, it takes longer time, but considering how it's enough for you to catch 1 super rare fish like lava eel, and you can raise the number up to 10 from single fish, now that is a great thing. Now, since we have been talking about the dishes, we all probably noticed that Willy, Leo, and Krobus dislike just about everything except of Willy when it comes to the fish-based dishes. So what can you therefore give to this man of the sea? Well, surprisingly enough, Willy loves a lot of things including catfish, octopus, sea cucumber, and sturgeon, followed by meat and some bling. Seriously, not sure why he needs a diamond, but okay. Look, considering how difficult it is to get some of these things, and unless you will have bunch of cucumbers ready for lucky lunch production, my suggestion is to go with the mead. As it is super easy to be made, just make sure you avoid turning flavored honey into mead, and you will be leveling up that friendship fast, as you will require catfish and sturgeon for bundles in community center. Iridium bars will be hard to part ways with, especially at the start, and if you know how difficult it is to capture octopus, my suggestion is to just simply keep it. Okay, so this will sum up the part about the dishes themselves. And honestly, if I would not include these dishes in the video just by saying that, well, we have 32 dishes versus 36, or 31 dishes versus 35 if we would exclude Lobster Bisque because we can get it from either source, this video would not make sense to be made. So this is why I wanted to cover all the dishes and provide some potential information to you as a potential newcomer or returning player in case you want to expand your gaming experience. So let's try to take a look at the biggest pros and cons of Queen of Sauce next in order to determine who will be the winning party. So let's try to take a look at the biggest pros and cons of Queen of Sauce. Positives. Convenience. Honestly, this is self-explanatory, as all any of us have to do is progress through the days and seasons and follow our own individual plans, and just every now and then check the TV for a second. Heck, even if you miss the recipe, you have the possibility to return on Wednesdays, as the TV show will air a random recipe from those which you might theoretically have missed. Statistics. 1/4 of the dishes give you buffs. Now this would be 9 out of 32, or 8 if we would get the Lobster Bisque from Willy and not Queen of Sauce. The average health which you get from all the dishes is 70.43 health. The average energy which you get from all the dishes is 157.31. There are no radical elements like strange buns, and you have the possibility to acquire 7 dishes earlier at the saloon, and the average time for all the buffs comes up to 10 minutes. The assembly. Now, you are going to require certain ingredients in order to assemble more elaborate dishes. However, you will have milk, sugar, wheat, flour, eggs. Just from these ingredients alone, you can already make a bunch of dishes. Negatives. Terrible order in which you get these. Okay, so basically after the stir fry, majority of the dishes which you get from Queen of Sauce are completely strange. I mean, the second dish alone, which is Coleslaw, has a year 2 ingredient for different season in it. Honestly, I believe if some of these dishes would be allowed to be switched around, it would be much better for you as a player, but this is one massive minus for the Queen of Sauce. As certain NPCs, you will literally be scrambling to befriend in order to give them at least something, because you will have to keep waiting for the dishes to appear. Like with Kent, roasted hazelnut and the risotto both are taught to you after his arrival and after his birthday and spring season. Not being able to cook these dishes even if you have the ingredients. Okay, so this is a big negative, and it will of course be related to the recipes from the NPCs as well. But if I have corn during the summer season, why do I need to wait till fall, since I know that I only need 1 corn to make tortillas? And I know this is not the best example, as again we can get it from Gus. The Gus only sells 7 recipes and that is it. Why does a returning player in his 80th replay of this game have to wait till year 2 of winter season in order to make Poppyseed Muffin for Penny's birthday? Or not be able to make risotto or roasted hazelnuts for Kent during the second year spring, and I need to keep giving him daffodils instead? This is where I have to give credit to Graveyard Keeper in comparison, as it does not matter if you are starting off new save file. If you have the ingredients and you know how to mix the ingredients in the correct order, in the alchemy for example, you can do it. You don't need to unlock the tech first. Now I'm sure there might be a mod for this, but in case you missed the information at the start of the video, I'm covering the vanilla game for PC version. So no mods. And the last big negative is the lack of buffs. Now this is fairly easy to understand, as a lot of the dishes give us similar results as some of the recipes you get from the NPCs. I mean, for 3 hearts, minimal energy and health in return for mixing some ingredients which would otherwise be used for sales. Now let's take a look at the positives which I was able to come across during my research when it comes to the recipes which you get from NPCs. So the first buff which I would say are buffs. We get a great shift between NPCs and what their dishes do to us. All 4 recipes which you get from Willy have bonus for fishing and last over 16 minutes. Increasing energy bar therefore, as it might supplement the use of star drops, and also they might increase your magnetism without the use of the magnetic rings. So you can theoretically equip other rings to your character and have multiple bonuses at the same time. And focusing all aspects and buffing defense, farming, fighting, foraging, mining, luck, and speed. Everything is covered when it comes to buffs from the NPCs. New dishes. Okay, now with the constant support from the creator, we have to admit that these dishes have been increasing in numbers. I mean, just by adding Leo and his 2 dishes, we have allowed to change around few things and get more options and results when it comes to giving as a gift. I mean, if things will keep on progressing like this, out of the 34 NPCs in game to whom you can give gifts, 18 give you recipes in return. So it's more than 1/2. And who knows, maybe something new will be added in the 1.6 patch. Gifts. Love goes through the stomach, and so most of the dishes here are certainly created for a set purpose, from fried calamari to rhubarb pie to many others. By trying to acquire all the necessary ingredients for said dishes, players will have to learn a whole lot more about the game and experience more of the game by acquiring set ingredients from farming, fishing, foraging, whatever other activities you might have to participate in. Also, it is nice to see that husband's dish is liked by his wife, or that Evelyn hates when her husband cooks, as it creates this fun dynamic, as usually if you want to befriend someone, their friend will be able to provide you with recipe that will help you to do so. Community Center use. Now, when I was doing the pros and cons, I initially did not actually introduce this element. However, I thought that it would really help to make a point even for the dishes given to you by the NPCs. Because out of the 34 NPCs, only around like 19 or 18 will actually give you recipes. And we have the extreme cases like Willy, and then we have cases like Sandy or Pierre or Robin. So there is a huge imbalance. However, when you take a look at the individual ingredients for the dishes and the required ingredients which are required, I tried to look at it as if what other point or purpose might motivate a player such as you or me in order to actually go out of our way and get these ingredients. So when I was going over the list of the ingredients for either the dishes by Queen of Sauce or either by the dishes given to us by the NPCs, I actually found out that you are gonna require more ingredients for the recipes from NPCs instead of the recipes for Queen of Sauce. Now, I made actually a list, and I'm gonna try to share a snapshot of it. And I have gone based on the basic community center bundles. So none of the remix bundles where you require 1 ancient fruit and 1 sweet gem berry. So none of that. Because, again, as most of you are still playing this on consoles, handhelds, and other devices, you might not have yet access to the remix bundles. And I have basically found out that when it comes to the required resources for NPCs, you are gonna require blueberry, cabbage, cauliflower, cheese, clam, coconut, common mushroom, crayfish, dandelion, eel, egg, green bean, hazelnut, hot pepper, largemouth bass, leek, milk, morel, mussel, parsnip, periwinkle, pumpkin, snail, tomato, tuna, and yam. These are all the ingredients which you will have to also donate to the community center. On the other hand, when it came to Queen of Sauce, there were less ingredients necessary, and also some of them did repeat. So for Queen of Sauce, you only require apple, apricot, blackberry, blueberry, cabbage, carp, cave carrot, cheese, clam, common mushroom, crab, fern, hazelnut, eggs, milk, lobster, maple syrup, melon, poppy, potato, pumpkin, shrimp, tomato, wheat, yam. So it actually comes up to only around like 14 plus 2, and when it comes to NPCs, it comes to 15 plus 2. And those plus 2 are due to the fact that milk and eggs for community center actually require the large size. However, for you to cook the recipes, you might be able to supplement chicken eggs with duck eggs and cow milk with the goat milk. So this was one additional positive which I think should be put out there, because a lot of you are gonna try to learn about the game, and there is not a better way than to try and fulfill the community center. I remember the first time I was able to ever complete it. It took me forever to do it. However, eventually, since I tried to keep going for community center instead of just Jojo Mart, I actually learned a whole lot about the game, when to do certain things like fishing for certain species, or when to plant certain crops, etc., in order to make sure that I can get my greenhouse at the earliest time and such. So now that this is over, let's move on to the next part. Now let's take a look at the negatives of when it comes to the NPC related recipes. So the first negative I would call 3 heart recipes. Now majority of these recipes might be watered down gift which you will receive once you get to 7 hearts, if that is even something you will want to achieve. This can demotivate the players to try to give gifts to said NPCs, or create a situation where a player will avoid certain NPCs, specifically as their dishes have very little benefits, while others will be seeked by majority of players just thanks to the overall benefits which they might provide. And the game might try to negate this by giving you quests by set NPCs. However, it is not enough to ensure players will follow through. If we would, for example, compare Evelyn with Willy or anyone else who gives you at least 1 buff, we will see a dramatic shift here. The second big negative for NPCs is the schedule of each NPC, because each NPC will have their own program. So unless you are able to memorize million dates for a fictional town where people go to doctor or go shopping, or on Tuesday have workout sessions in case you want to befriend certain NPCs by giving them gifts, you are going to struggle, especially if you are new to the game. Hell, I have over 800 hours in this game, and I can honestly say I have zero idea who has what schedule, except a few who go shopping, work out on Tuesdays, or stand by the bus, or work at the blacksmith shop, or operate the saloon. So this is definitely a 100% big negative to receiving that dish which you are craving. Slow progression. Now this is probably what demotivates me the most and is most likely a reason as to why until this day I have still not married any of the NPCs or have kids with them. You can only give 2 gifts per week. If you do not give them what they love, it's going to take much longer, and if you do not have a special gift they love on their birthday, or they somehow mess up your dates, which is why I would suggest getting a calendar from Robin ASAP, you're going to miss out on possibility to jump by 3 hearts in a friendship. Then there is the decay. Now sure, if you want to stay best friends with NPCs, you're gonna have to ensure that you will keep giving them gifts, otherwise the friendship will go down. But if you will switch to someone else, or you only give gifts on birthdays, you're going to see some super slow progression, and it will take you quite a while to reach that 7 hearts recipe. So my final verdict? Well, originally I really thought that because there are more options from the NPCs and overall much more buffs, which last from 3 minutes up to 17 minutes, and they have a focus on all the major aspects of the gameplay, from your defense to energy to farming, foraging, fighting, fishing, magnetism, maxed out energy bar, and more. This seems like a no-brainer until I wanted to make sure, and I actually had to make an Excel spreadsheet with some of the stats such as health, energy, how many people love this, how many people hate this specific dish. If I were to count some of these metrics, such as how many NPCs on average love the dishes, NPCs would have won. However, due to the extreme cases like strange buns, which are hated by 34 NPCs, and too many variations of the buff lasting times, which once again go from 3 minutes up to almost 17 minutes, this has created way too many variations and a total mess in the whole system. And therefore I have decided, based on the data, my verdict is that Queen of Sauce should be the winner. Look, the biggest plus is the convenience factor and the fact that you will know 32 dishes. Now this unbalanced motivation to pursue one NPC, while from 34 in-game NPCs only 18 will give you recipes, while Willy will grant you 4 recipes, others like Sandy or Robin will only give you 1, and even these are after reaching 7 hearts. And yes, the buffs might be nice, but the time you get to this point in friendship with them, you might already have a higher level of defense or farming, and the luck can be affected just by you waiting for the right day. After all, many players play their saved files into year 7 for all I know. So yeah, majority of the new players will also be introduced to the new dishes by watching TV. This is how I learned that the TV gives recipes, as back in 2016 when the game came out, and there were early tips floating around, and one of them was to check your TV, and so I did. And thanks to how players can rearrange furniture including bed inside their home now, this can become accessible to you to get out of the bed, check the TV, check the calendar, and get the hell out and do whatever you want to do. And since most players will stick with one saved file for what I'm assuming is more than 2 years in order to achieve that aesthetical perfection, by the time they are done, they might have a couple of recipes from NPCs, but they will have all 32 of them from Queen of Sauce. This has been a tough one to pull out, honestly, as I was sure, thanks to the changes made to the game with the 1.5 version, the NPCs were going to take it, and honestly I'm not sure how long will these stats last, as I wanted to make this back with the 1.4 version when we never heard of Leo or mango sticky rice, and see the NPCs receive this new rework. Probably due to this, I'm not sharing the spreadsheet and certain things with you as player, as if Eric will publish another big rework for the game, like expanding the list of NPCs or doing something more with Fern Island. We will never know. Obviously, as you will progress, you will unlock recipes from foraging, farming, and more, but like I said, on multiple occasions, I could have not thrown those in here as it would not compete properly with Queen of Sauce and NPCs versus dishes from, let's say, foraging or farming, because you get only a couple of them. So yeah, this is not just laziness from my end by being able to crawl out of my bed, turning on the Food Network and working from home during the quarantine, but by research and going over a stupid quantity of data, which now that I realize my laptop would never be able to put together, as it would literally blow up if I would try to edit and put this video together back during the 1.4 version of the game. However, if you disagree, let me know why the NPCs should have won. Who is your favorite NPC to befriend or to marry, and why, or if you agree with me, and which TV recipe is your favorite, as I cannot decide between glazed yams and lucky lunch. At the end, I would like to thank to any poor soul who has decided to watch until now, as the script alone took me a couple of rewrites until I was finally happy with it, and it spans over 40 pages of way too many grammatical errors. On top of that, since we are talking about something versus something, and already back in the day I did keg versus preserve jar, I would love to hear your opinion in the comment section on if you would like to make me try and do some other something versus something video. If the idea is liked by me or is supported by the other viewers, I might decide to go for it. After all, I now have the hardware that allows me to put it together. However, I cannot guarantee how long it will take me to do. I already have an idea for another fun video, but I'm currently working on some other content, so we will see how I will be able to progress from one idea to another, as I want to make sure that this thing will have a nice rewatchability factor included, as sure, keg versus preserve jar was a great idea when I got it, but the execution of that video is not where I would like it to be, so this is why I'm trying to make sure that despite the fact that I'm putting way more hours into this one, it will be much better in quality, so you can theoretically return to it, unless there will be a major rework and majority of the data included in the video will be completely unusable. So yeah, stay safe out there, and most importantly, enjoy the game. And in a year or so, when majority of the data will not be usable because Concerned Ape has changed bunch of things, or heck, you play the game with game-breaking mods, this video might no longer have the entertainment value, so share it amongst your friends and introduce them to Stardew Valley, as apparently there is now even a board game. Now, this definitely means that everyone will be cheating and getting prismatic shards and other valuable items really early in their game. Seriously, how do you plan on determining if you catch the catfish or not on the third day of spring when it rains and your fishing is super low, and you do not use the trout soup or something else? I don't know. Seriously, you have to let me know. Also, if you want to know what the channel is currently up to, consider subscribing. I publish content on a weekly basis. I do mostly playthroughs because they take the least amount of time for me to process, and then I'm working on projects like these. If you like videos like these, let me know in the comment section. It helps stupidly enough with the algorithm on YouTube, and heck, if I manage to create a bigger community and you will be able to feed me enough information for more content, I might be able to put it together. After all, this video editing is a really challenging hobby, which I'm really enjoying, so please make sure to stay subscribed, hit the notification bell icon so you get the new videos, and I will see you in the comments or at the next one, because I'm quite sure everyone will try to tear my head off for saying that Queen of Sauce is better than the recipes from NPCs, but try to prove me wrong. Thank you for watching, everyone. Stay safe out there, have fun playing Stardew Valley, and I will see you in the next one.